Greetings, dear listeners. As you know, each and every month, Dr. Curious and I welcome the arrival of the full moon. On December the 8th, it was the cold moon, and it was too cold to go outside and film. It was -30. So instead of footage of the cold moon, I'm going to tell you a story about frost. Frost. Not the frost on your window pane or our friendly, familiar Jack Frost, but the deadly, deathly cold frost of a Russian winter. Once upon a time, there was an evil stepmother who wanted to kill her stepdaughter. The girl, called Marta, tried in every way to please her stepmother and her stepsisters, but they insulted her and made her cry and do all the work of the house. In fact, they enjoyed tormenting her. One day, the evil stepmother had an idea. "I say, old man, let's get Marta married." "Gladly," says he, somewhat surprised. "Get up early tomorrow, harness the sledge, and drive away with Marta. And Marta, get your things together and put on a clean shift. You're going on a visit." Poor Marta was delighted. Early next morning, she got up, washed herself, prayed to God, dressed herself in her best clothes, and looked, well, beautiful. Now it was winter, with a rattling frost. Early on, between daybreak and sunrise, the old man harnessed the sledge, then went indoors to breakfast. Or so he thought. "There, oaf! Be off with you," the wife scolded. "Drive Marta to her bridegroom, old man. Drive straight along the road at first, and then turn off from the road into the forest, right up to the big pine tree that stands on the hill, and there hand Marta over to Frost. Frost." The old man was stunned, and Marta began crying. "Now then, what are you squealing about?" said the stepmother. "Surely your bridegroom is handsome. Now, both of you, get going and out of my sight." The unhappy pair drove away in silence. After a time they reached the forest, where the old man stopped, made Marta get out, laid her basket under the tall pine, and said, "Sit here and await your bridegroom, and goodbye." The old man then quickly drove away. Marta sat and shivered. She would have cried aloud, but her teeth kept chattering. Suddenly, she heard a sound. Not far off, Frost was crackling away. From fir to fir he leapt, and snapped his fingers. Presently he reached the very pine where Marta sat, and cried, "Art thou warm, maiden?" "Warm, warm I am, dear Father Frost," she replied. Frost came closer to the maiden and said, "Art thou warm, maiden? Art thou warm, fair one?" The girl could scarcely breathe, but still replied, "Warm am I, Frost dear. Warm am I, Father dear." Frost came even closer and said, "Art thou warm, maiden? Art thou warm, pretty one? Art thou warm, my darling?" Marta was numb with cold, and in a whisper replied, "Oh, quite warm, Frost dearest." And then Frost took pity on Marta, wrapped her up in furs, and warmed her with blankets. Next morning, the old woman said to her husband, "Drive out, old graybeard, and fetch the corpse." The old man drove off. When he came to the forest, he found Marta alive and wearing gorgeous furs, a costly bridal veil, and had a basket full of rich gifts. They drove home in silence, and the evil stepmother was thunderstruck when she saw Marta alive, and the furs and the gifts. Yelling for her husband, she cried, "Take my daughters too to their bridegroom. The presents he's made are nothing to what he'll give them." Well, early next morning, the old woman gave her girls their breakfast, dressed them in their finest clothes, and sent them off on their journey. And once again, the old man left the girls under the pine. There the girls sat, laughing and saying, "Whatever is Mother thinking of? All of a sudden she wants to marry us both off? As if there were no lads in our village." The girls were wrapped up in furs, but for all that, they felt the cold. "I say, Olga, the frost is skinning me alive. If our bridegroom doesn't come soon, we shall be frozen to death." "But I say, Irina, if only one comes, which of us will he take?" "Not you, you stupid goose." And so the girls fell to quarreling, and while they quarreled, they began to freeze till, after a time, they both cried out at once, "Someone's coming! I can hear them!" Suddenly Frost appeared, and said to the sisters, "Are ye warm, maidens? Are ye warm, pretty ones? Are ye warm, my darlings?" "Oh, Frost, it's awfully cold. We're utterly perished. We're expecting a bridegroom, but the fool hasn't come." Frost came closer. "Are ye warm, maidens? Are ye warm, pretty ones?" "Oh, get along with you! Are you blind? Our hands and feet, they're frozen." Frost came even closer and said, "Are ye warm, maidens?" "Oh, go to the devil, fool!" cried the girls, and became lifeless forms. And they became lifeless forms. Next morning, the old woman said to her husband, "Old man, go and get the sledge and take some sheepskin wraps. I dare say the girls are half dead with cold. There's a terrible frost outside. And mind you, old graybeard, go quickly." But when the old man came to where his daughters were, he found them dead. And so he lifted them onto the sledge and covered them up with a blanket. The old woman ran out to meet him and called, "Where are the girls?" "In the sledge." The old woman lifted the mat, undid the blanket, and found both the girls dead. Then, like a thunderstorm, she broke out against her husband, abusing him, saying, "What have you done, you old wretch? You've killed them. I will thrash you. Ah, shut up, you old goose. This is all your fault." And with that, he took the old woman into the forest and left her there. As for Marta, a neighbor made an offer of marriage. The wedding was celebrated, and she is now living happily. And the old man now frightens his grandchildren with stories about frost. The moral of the story: the evil stepmother thought she could outwit Frost, but it turns out she didn't know Jack. If this is your first visit to my channel, please consider subscribing. My name is Warren, and I write and tell original ghost stories and original horror stories, featuring such cryptids as the Night Floaters, Werewolves, and the Black-Eyed Children. So again, please consider subscribing. Please help me to reach my goal of 2,500 subs in 2022. And time's running out. Subscribe today. Till midnight. Cheers. Pictures used in today's video, courtesy of Pix here, that's PX here, while the music was the stately Ghost Processional by that patron of the internet, Kevin MacLeod.